Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up over the next 1 hour. India conducts Operation Sindoor, strikes 9 terror targets in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Hideouts of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizbul Mujahideen terror groups destroyed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally monitors the late-night strikes. The Indian Army will be holding a press conference soon. The Cabinet Committee on Security is set to meet as well. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval briefs US Secretary of State counterpart Marco Rubio, who also holds the additional charge of National Security Advisor. Air travel across northern India impacted. The Airport Authority of India shuts down runways at airports in Srinagar and Amritsar, among others. And Pakistan violates ceasefire hours after India strikes terror camps. The Indian Army responds appropriately. Now, the Indian Armed Forces launched Operation Sindoor, hitting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, from where terrorist attacks against India have been planned and directed. In a press statement, the Armed Forces said that altogether 9 sites have been targeted as part of Operation Sindoor or Operation Vermilion. Ministry of Defence press releases said that our actions have been focused, measured and non-escalatory in nature. No Pakistani military facilities have been targeted. India has demonstrated considerable restraint in selection of targets and the method of execution. These steps come in the wake of the barbaric Pahalgam terrorist attack, in which 25 Indians and 1 Nepali citizen were murdered. We are living up to the commitment that those responsible for this attack will be held accountable. Let's now get you the details of the terrorist hotbeds which were targeted by the Indian Armed Forces. Now, the first one was Markaz Subhanallah, which was run by Jaish-e-Mohammed in Bahawalpur city of the Punjab province in Pakistan. This Markaz, or the centre, served as the operational headquarters of the JEM, that's Jaish-e-Mohammed, and was associated with terrorist plannings including Pulwama attack on the 14th of February 2019. Perpetrators of Pulwama attack were trained at this camp. The second was the Markaz Taiba, which was established in the year 2000 and was the alma mater and the most important training centre of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, located in Nangal Sadan town in the Punjab province of Pakistan. The third was Mehmoona Joya facility of Hizbul Mujahideen, located near Kotli Bhutta Government Hospital in Head Marala area of Sialkot district of Punjab in Pakistan. The terror backers, Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence, had facilitated setting up of such launch facilities along international border and the line of control in government buildings to hide or conceal terror infrastructure. The next was Markaz Ahle Hadith Barnala, run by Lashkar-e-Taiba in the Bhimbar district in the Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir region. The centre was one of the important markazes of the Lashkar in Pakistan-occupied J&K and was used for infiltration of LET terrorists and arms plus ammunition into Poonch, Rajouri, Riasi sectors of India's J&K. The centre or markaz was situated at the outskirts of Barnala town on Kot Jamail Road and was at a distance of 500 metres from Barnala town and 200 metres from Kot Jamail Road. The sixth target India hit was the Markaz Saidna Hazrat Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, and it was a Jaish-e-Mohammed centre located in Kotli of Pakistan-occupied J&K. Now, this centre was located close to the Pakistani military camp Kotli. This building was accommodating around 100 to 125 JEM cadres, and 40 to 50 JEM cadres were always present within the premises of this markaz at any point of time. The seventh target was located in PoJK, Maskar Rahil Shaheed Hizbul Mujahideen in Kotli district of PoJK. Maskar Rahil Shaheed was one of the oldest facilities of Hizbul Mujahideen. It is a secluded facility and accessible only through a kacha track. The camp is located in a hilly area and comprises of barracks, 4 rooms being used for keeping arms and ammunition, office and for residential purposes for terrorists. Another camp hit Shawai Nalla camp, one of the most important camps of the LET and is used for recruitment, registration and training of LET cadres. This camp was functional since early 2000. Sidna Bilal Masjid is the main centre of JEM in PoJK, located opposite Red Fort, Muzaffarabad. This facility is used as a transit camp for JEM terrorists prior to their launching into JNK. At any point of time, 50 to 100 cadres resided in this facility. And India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has strongly responded to following these Indian strikes, part of Operation Sindoor or Operation Vermilion, which is a mark of the wedded status of an Indian Hindi woman. Now, on 9 sites of Pakistan on social media X, Rajnath Singh expressed national pride with the slogan Bharat Mata Ki Jai or Hail Mother India. And India's Home Minister Amit Shah also reacted to Operation Sindoor. Taking to social media platform X, Amit Shah said, and I quote, "Proud of our armed forces, Operation Sindoor is Bharat's response to the brutal killing of our innocent brothers in Pahalgam. The Modi government is resolved to give a befitting reply to any attack on India and its people. Bharat remains firmly committed to eradicating terrorism from its roots." And India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has also put out his thoughts on the matter, and he said, and I quote, "The world must show zero tolerance for terrorism." Now, Prime Minister Modi has been closely, he monitored the Operation Sindoor throughout the night as the Indian Armed Forces executed precision strikes on 9 terrorist camps across Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The PM will be chairing the Cabinet Committee on Security later in the day today. Meanwhile, the Indian Army is set to be holding a press conference pretty soon in New Delhi. Further details regarding the operation are to be revealed perhaps at that time. Let me now bring in my colleague Amit Mukherjee for more on this. Amit, clearly this has been quite a day. India had promised retribution when this attack had taken place in Pahalgam, and it has come in well, an unprecedented manner really. India has been known to hit back at Pakistan earlier for carrying out terrorist strikes, but this is completely takes it to another level, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Gautam. In fact, India took about 14 days. It built up the narrative. I mean, it actually built up the narrative how, innocent tourists were actually targeted in Jammu and Kashmir. And, preparations were on, although it was a combined effort of all the joint forces, Indian Air Force, Navy, as well as the Indian Army. And in fact, as you rightly pointed out, it was a very targeted, non-escalatory operation, which India actually clarified post the operation. Just after midnight, this operation was kind of executed, and all those who were involved in the operation have returned safe. They have been accounted for. So, and the kind of ammunitions also which India used, it was again very well thought of. It kind of inflicted minimum collateral damages, and it was very, very targeted, which the government has also pointed out. In fact, the narratives which India has been building over the last 10, 14 days, that has also actually paid off. In fact, if you look at the narratives of different media houses across the globe, that has also changed. In fact, New York Times, earlier it was referring to the act in Pahalgam as, act by militants, but now they have clarified and they have said that it was an act by terrorist, outfits and, members of terrorist gang. And also, in fact, for which New York Times earlier they had drawn flack from the American House Committee. And rightly so, now they have changed their narratives. Just after the operations, all the global media reported about it. In fact, whether it was the European media or the American media, they have come out in support of it, and they have termed it as a operation by India against terrorist outfit. LET, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, these were the targets which India actually, executed the operations against. And like you rightly said, it was much in the offing, and it had quite an emphatic response, I must say. Gautam?
Yes, certainly. And Prabhu Dayal, former senior diplomat, is with us as well. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, what do you make of how the world has been reacting to India's actions?
Well, first of all, the world was very clear in the fact that it stands against terrorism. This was a message which had been going across to Pakistan, that there is absolutely no compromise that can be made with terrorism. If you recall, Pakistan had a couple of days back convened a special meeting of the UN Security Council. Pakistan is a non-permanent member, and it used that position to convene this meeting. But it didn't get any support from the other countries. In fact, they very categorically conveyed to Pakistan that they were totally against terrorism. So this is a very important message which has gone from the rest of the world to Pakistan. And this message certainly wouldn't have been lost on the Pakistani authorities. Now, on our part, we have made it very clear that what we did last night was an attack at terrorist sites. We did not attack any sites of military, economic, or civil in nature. These were targets of the establishments of the terrorist organization. So, firstly, we conveyed this message very clearly that our fight was against terrorism, and we were not targeting the rest of Pakistan, particularly its civilians and its economic targets, or even its army. So, in other words, an escalation of the crisis is something that Pakistan should avoid, because our actions were very limited in nature. Secondly, and this is very, very important, a message also has gone across to the rest of the world that India is very determined, that all options are on the table, and that if Pakistan chooses to escalate, then we are prepared for it. So the preparedness of the Indian establishment, particularly the Indian Armed Forces, is very, very clear. And in other words, Pakistan should be very careful about how it decides to take any action. Pakistan cannot afford to escalate, because as it is, its economy is in shambles. Pakistan is facing armed rebellions in Balochistan and in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So, does it want to break up? If it escalates the conflict with India, as it is, its resources are totally depleted. The population will be hurt very, very significantly. And moreover, if there is a concentration of Pakistani forces along the border with India and along the line of control in J&K, then the militants who are waging a battle against Pakistan in Balochistan and in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa will be better in a position to carry out their activities against the Pakistan army, because the strength of the Pakistan army will be now diverted towards the India border.
Well,
So
there's plenty that Pakistan can take into its calculus in terms of the possibility of domestic unrest as well. We've already had a confrontation situation where it's domestic politics concerned, with Imran Khan in jail for all these months. But if there are foreign nations, even friendly nations, saying that both sides should exercise restraint and resort to dialogue after India has taken action in the context of Pahalgam, who is the message really meant for? Is it for us or is it for Pakistan?
Well, I think it is meant for both sides. In fact, many countries have tried to send a signal to Pakistan as well as to India that an escalation of the conflict is best avoided. And that is indeed true. But it is Pakistan which bears the responsibility right from the beginning to what the present situation is. Because, firstly, Pakistan has done nothing to control the terrorist activities which are carried out against India from within Pakistan. It has, in fact, funded, encouraged, trained, and armed the terrorists. And in fact, they have become a part of the institutional machinery of Pakistan. So, Pakistan has employed terror as a part of its state policy. So it bears the responsibility. Nonetheless, the rest of the world doesn't want to see a serious escalation in the conflict, and neither do we. That is why our message to Pakistan has been very, very clear that we are only targeting the terrorist camps. We are not targeting civilian, military, or economic targets. Now, let me mention the very name which the Indian authorities have chosen for this particular operation is very significant. They've called it Operation Sindoor. Now, Sindoor is what adorns the mang of Hindu married women. And what happened in Pahalgam was that Hindu men were targeted and killed, and they were identified. They were first identified that they were not Muslim, that they were Hindus, and then they were killed. The women were spared, but nonetheless, what was taken away from the women was their sindoor. So, by code naming the Operation Sindoor, government of India sent out a very clear message that whatever it is doing is to avenge the killing of the men and to avenge the killing of innocent people. And the fact that we are calling it Operation Sindoor is because of the fact we want to restore the honor of our women and we want to carry out this act.
Certainly. Let's look at Pakistan's claims. I'm not giving any credence to them. I'm not elaborating on them. But they're claiming that they've already struck back. That's the refrain, really. But I'll have to come in at the moment and take you across to the National Media Center where we're getting a briefing by the armed forces. Let's listen in.
As of now, in this press brief, no questions will be taken. So I request you, please adhere to it. And 10:25 we start. Request to please settle down. Thank you.
I believe there's still some time left for that briefing. 10:25 was quoted. If I could come to Ambassador Prabhu Dayal once again. I was trying to ask you, Ambassador Dayal, that Pakistan's already claiming that it has hit back in India for this, transgression, they might call it that. But then where is the room for further escalation left?
No. Pakistan is Jhutistan. It can make all kinds of claims, but its claims always have been taken with a pinch of salt. I'm not at all convinced that any retaliatory strikes have been carried out by Pakistan. Of course, it has to try and assuage the public sentiment because people in Pakistan are very worried. As it is, their economy is in shambles. By cutting off the Indus River waters, India has taken further steps to weaken Pakistan's economy. The people are worried. And now with these strikes at the terrorist targets, there is more cause for anxiety because people in Pakistan feel that their country is extremely vulnerable. So perhaps the Pakistani establishment wants to send out a message that no, we are taking care of you. But all their claims have to be taken with a pinch of salt. I will go by whatever our armed forces say, and perhaps something will be said during this briefing. I'm looking forward to hearing our side on this story.
Well, certainly. Amit Mukherjee, if I could come to you again, in terms of how things have played out so far, it really started just before 2 a.m. Indian Standard Time, and since then we've seen a lot of movement taking place. Just sum up for us in terms of what is really happening, where further planning of a response from Pakistan and how to combat it is concerned.
Well, Gautam, in fact, the operation started just before 2 a.m. in the morning, around between 1 and 2 o'clock. And in fact, if you look at, the Prime Minister has been holding regular meetings, with the National Security Advisor. He met the chiefs of all three defense wing of India, the Naval Chief, the Army Chief, as well as the Indian Air Force Chief. So it was a kind of a very well coordinated operation. The prime objective was to destroy terror targets which were operating out of Pakistani soil. They identified the 9 targets that were to be kind of, targeted, and the kind of the choice of ammunition that was used. I would not like to name the kind of ammunitions they used, but they were stealth in nature. They were very precise in nature, and those were weapons that was used to kind of maintain minimum, to cause minimum collateral damages. These were very precise in nature in terms of their destructive capabilities, and very well coordinated. All the 3 defense wings were involved, and all the assets and personnel who were involved in executing this operation have been accounted for. They have returned safely. And as far as allegations, I just overheard the discussion which we are having right now. As far as Pakistan's claims of targeting Indian assets, as well as responding to this, it's absolutely no match. Of course, Pakistan for the last 12, 13 days they have been violating the ceasefire deal pact along the LOC. They have been involved in small little firings, and also there were reports of some shelling. But I mean, it's absolutely no match if they are claiming that they have responded to the the operation that was executed by India, the Operation Sindoor. So I mean, it has been calling hoax all the time. I mean, Pakistan has been lying through and throughout. In fact, they were also kind of cornered at the UN Security Council meeting yesterday when they, I mean, the world is not blind. They are watching that innocent civilians were targeted. That they were in fact and targeted men of certain religious, entities. So I mean, the world is not blind. They have been watching and coming back again to the narrative of maintaining restraint to both sides. I mean, that is for the world to know what has gone, because if you look at India, India has been maintaining fantastic diplomatic relations.
In fact, we've just got an alert on AFP saying that Pakistani military is saying that the death toll from the Indian strikes has risen to 26 civilians. So that number in itself is it seems to be quite coincidental.
Yes, absolutely, Gautam, and it's not only the Indian media now which is talking about these strikes. In fact, the foreign media has also has kind of acknowledged these strikes, which means these strikes by India against the terrorist outfits. It is kind of, I mean, these are all endorsements that India has executed the operation, and and it has also maintained. India again, like I was saying, India has been maintaining a fantastic diplomatic relationship with everybody. They have been very cordial. It has been very, very helpful in nature. And the kind of, even if you look at this particular attack, I mean, it targeted only the terrorist organizations, the assets of Lashkar-e-Toiba, the asset of Jaish-e-Mohammed. These were the 9 targets which were kind of, aimed at, by our striking forces. Gautam?
Yes. And Ambassador Prabhudas, what do you make of China's reaction?
Well, China has said that we should be a good neighbor and all, but is China a good neighbor? Has China done anything which justifies its claims to neighborliness? In fact, it has been a terrible...
Well, in the context of Pakistan, yes. In our context, no.
Right. So, in the context of Pakistan, when push comes to shove, they are with Pakistan. There is no doubt about the fact that they want to hurt India. That is their policy. Although,
but they also want business as usual with India.
Yes, we are a big market for them, so they want to retain that aspect. But the Chinese policy is very duplicitous. On the one hand, they connive with Pakistan, they assist Pakistan with weaponry, and they know that those weapons will only be used against India. Where else will those weapons be used? Of course, against a few insurgents, yes, but the main...
what do you make of China saying China opposes all forms of terrorism? Does it?
Well, China has been supporting Pakistan and has done nothing to curb Pakistani terrorist activities. So, even if it says that it stands against terrorism, let it come forward and stop assistance to Pakistan, because what it does matters more than what it may be saying.
Right. And they of course urged both sides to basically exercise restraint. And that of course remains to be seen. But again, if I could come to you, Amit, in terms of how India has acted so far, do you feel that there is a sort of a response that the world is giving right now that will lead to a situation that might lead to some sort of at least this zero tolerance toward terrorism will be underlined by everyone?
Absolutely, Gautam. Like, again, coming back to India's relationship with the world, I mean, India has been maintaining a very, very cordial relationship. It has been kind of narrating what happened in Jammu Kashmir on the 22nd of April. So I'm sure even if the world is talking in terms of taking resting as far as involvement of civilians and national interests are concerned, but there is definitely some sort of being, I would say, as far as India is concerned, to execute these kind of operations, particularly targeting terror offenders. But nobody across the world is in favor of any terror organization. We have been seeing what has been happening in the world. And, India has been able to mobilize people as far as the state-sponsored terrorism by Pakistan is concerned. So I'm sure, and India has kept everybody in the loop. India has built up an image which is of a very, very sort of a nation which takes care of a lot of things, oceans, take good place in nature. So any action that is taken by India at this moment of time is always justified. So the action that has taken place last night or early this morning, I mean, the world knows that India has acted there. These people, the neighbors, the rogue neighbors have been causing a lot of unrest, and and everybody is looking at government, Pakistan, and nations like this. They have been involved in kind of terror activities at different parts of the world. So I mean,
Amit, we're not getting your audio very clearly.
Endorsement.
Yes, we're not getting your audio very clearly. We'll try and reconnect. In the meantime, let me again bring in Ambassador Prabhudyal. Ambassador Prabhudyal, what do you make of what's happening as far as the LOC is concerned? Pakistan has escalated as far as its ceasefire violations are concerned, and there have been casualties as well on our side.
Well, Pakistan is up to mischief. Firstly, this terrorist attack in Pahalgam had been carried out clearly with the full knowledge and abetment by the Pakistani military authorities. And as if to put pressure on us, it is escalating the situation along the line of control by indulging in cross-border firing. Now, the game plan of the Pakistanis is to try and put pressure on India to hold back against any action that we are taking against the terrorists. Now, India has made it very clear that we have zero tolerance for terrorism. In fact, this is the message that has been sent across to other countries, that we will not be tolerating terrorism and we will avenge the terrorist attack. Now, this doesn't mean that we want a full-scale war with Pakistan, because Prime Minister Modi has been very, very forthright in saying this is not the era of war. A war will not be in Pakistan's interest, nor will it be in ours. So we are not interested in waging war against Pakistan, but we have to take action against the terrorists. And that is why what was done early this morning was a very, very firmly carried out strike against 9 terrorist holdouts, terrorist camps. And the message should be clear to the Pakistani people. But of course, the Pakistani establishment will indulge in a lot of disinformation. They will try to portray it as an Indian attack on civilian targets, etc., which they are already doing. But as I said earlier, they are liars. They are Jhutistan. And whatever they say also doesn't go down too well with their own people, because the Pakistani people themselves have become fully cognizant of the fact that their armed forces and their deep state, which...
I'm sorry, we're cutting you at the moment, Ambassador Dayal, because we have to cut across to the National Media Centre, where there's a very important press briefing about to unfold. Foreign Secretary of India, Vikram Misri, is also there with other armed forces representatives. The lady officers that you see in the frame are Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, who are briefing the media on Operation Sindoor.
नमस्कार। इस ब्रीफिंग में शामिल होने के लिए आप सभी का धन्यवाद। जैसा कि आप सभी जानते हैं, 22 अप्रैल 2025 को लश्कर तैयबा से संबंधित पाकिस्तानी और पाकिस्तान प्रशिक्षित आतंकवादियों ने भारत में जम्मू और कश्मीर के पहलगाम में भारतीय पर्यटकों पर बर्बरतापूर्ण हमला किया। 25 भारतीयों और एक नेपाली नागरिक को कायरतापूर्ण मौत के घाट उतार दिया गया। मुंबई के 26 नवंबर 2008 के हमलों के बाद यह भारत में हुई किसी आतंकवादी हमले में मारे गए आम नागरिकों की संख्या की दृष्टि से सबसे गंभीर घटना है। पहलगाम का हमला अत्यधिक बर्बरतापूर्ण था, जिसमें वहां मौजूद लोगों को करीब से और उनके परिवारों के सामने सिर पर गोली मारी गई। हत्या के इस तरीके से परिवार के सदस्यों को जानबूझकर आघात पहुंचाया गया। साथ ही उन्हें यह नसीहत भी दी गई कि वे वापस जाकर इस संदेश को पहुंचा दें। यह हमला स्पष्ट रूप से जम्मू और कश्मीर में बहाल हो रही सामान्य स्थिति को बाधित करने के उद्देश्य से किया गया था। चूंकि पर्यटन फिर से अर्थव्यवस्था का मुख्य आधार बन रहा था, इस हमले का मुख्य उद्देश्य इसे प्रतिकूल रूप से प्रभावित करना था। पिछले वर्ष आप सभी जानते हैं 2.25 करोड़ से अधिक पर्यटक कश्मीर आए थे। इस हमले का मुख्य उद्देश्य इसलिए संभवतः यह था कि इस संघ राज्य क्षेत्र में विकास और प्रगति को नुकसान पहुंचाकर इसे पिछड़ा बनाए रखा जाए और पाकिस्तान से लगातार होने वाले सीमा पार आतंकवाद के लिए उपजाऊ जमीन बनाने में सहायता की जाए। हमले का यह तरीका जम्मू और कश्मीर और शेष राष्ट्र दोनों में सांप्रदायिक दंगे भड़काने के उद्देश्य से भी प्रेरित था। इसका श्रेय सरकार और भारत के सभी नागरिकों को दिया जाना चाहिए कि इन प्रयासों को विफल कर दिया गया। एक समूह ने खुद को रेजिस्टेंस फ्रंट TRF कहते हुए इस हमले की जिम्मेदारी ली है। यह समूह संयुक्त राष्ट्र द्वारा प्रतिबंधित पाकिस्तानी आतंकवादी समूह लश्कर तैयबा से जुड़ा हुआ है। यह उल्लेखनीय है कि भारत ने मई और नवंबर 2024 में संयुक्त राष्ट्र की 1267 कमेटी की सैंक्शंस मॉनिटरिंग टीम को अर्धवार्षिक रिपोर्ट प्रस्तुत की थी, जिसमें टीआरएफ के बारे में साफ इनपुट दिए गए थे। इससे पाकिस्तान स्थित आतंकवादी समूहों के लिए कवर के रूप में टीआरएफ की भूमिका सामने आई थी। इससे पहले भी दिसंबर 2023 में भारत ने इस टीम को लश्कर-ए-तैयबा और जैश-ए-मोहम्मद के बारे में सूचित किया था, जो टीआरएफ जैसे छोटे आतंकवादी समूहों के माध्यम से अपनी गतिविधियों को संचालित कर रहे हैं। इस संबंध में 25 अप्रैल को यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल प्रेस वक्तव्य में टीआरएफ के संदर्भ को हटाने के लिए पाकिस्तान के दबाव पर भी ध्यान दिया जाना चाहिए। पहलगाम आतंकवादी हमले की जांच से पाकिस्तान के साथ आतंकवादियों के संपर्क उजागर हुए हैं। रेजिस्टेंस फ्रंट द्वारा किए गए दावे और लश्कर-ए-तैयबा से ज्ञात सोशल मीडिया हैंडल द्वारा इसको रीपोस्ट किया जाना इसकी पुष्टि करता है। चश्मदीद गवाहों और विभिन्न जांच एजेंसियों को उपलब्ध अन्य सूचनाओं के आधार पर हमलावरों की पहचान भी हुई है। हमारी इंटेलिजेंस ने इस टीम के योजनाकारों और उनके समर्थकों की जानकारी जुटाई है। इस हमले की रूपरेखा भारत में सीमा पार आतंकवाद को अंजाम देने के पाकिस्तान के लंबे ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड से भी जुड़ी हुई है, जिसके लिखित और स्पष्ट दस्तावेज उपलब्ध हैं। पाकिस्तान दुनिया भर में आतंकवादियों के लिए एक शरण स्थल के रूप में पहचान बना चुका है। यहां अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर प्रतिबंधित आतंकवादी सजा पाने से बचे रहते हैं। इसके अलावा पाकिस्तान ने इस मुद्दे पर विश्व और फाइनेंशियल एक्शन टास्क फोर्स जैसे अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मंचों को जानबूझकर गुमराह करने के लिए भी जाना जाता है। साजिद मीर का मामला, जिसमें इस आतंकवादी को पाकिस्तान ने मृत घोषित कर दिया था और फिर अंतर्राष्ट्रीय दबाव के परिणाम स्वरूप वो जीवित पाया गया, इसका सबसे स्पष्ट उदाहरण है। यह स्वाभाविक है कि पहलगाम में हुए इस हमले से जम्मू और कश्मीर के साथ साथ भारत के अन्य भागों में भी आक्रोश देखा गया। हमलों के बाद भारत सरकार ने स्वाभाविक रूप से पाकिस्तान के साथ संबंधों को लेकर कुछ कदम उठाए। आप सभी उन निर्णयों से अवगत हैं जिसकी घोषणा 23 अप्रैल को की गई थी। तथापि यह आवश्यक समझा गया कि 22 अप्रैल के हमले के अपराधियों और उनके योजनाकारों को न्याय के कटघरे में लाया जाए। हमलों के एक पखवाड़े के बाद भी पाकिस्तान द्वारा अपने क्षेत्र या अपने नियंत्रण वाले क्षेत्रों में आतंकवादियों की इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के विरुद्ध कार्यवाही करने के लिए कोई स्पष्ट कदम नहीं उठाया गया है। उल्टे वो इनकार करने और आरोप लगाने में ही लिप्त रहा है। पाकिस्तान आधारित आतंकवादी मॉड्यूल्स पर हमारी खुफिया निगरानी ने संकेत दिया है कि भारत के विरुद्ध आगे भी हमले हो सकते हैं। अतः इनको रोकना और इनसे निपटना दोनों को बेहद आवश्यक समझा गया। आज सुबह, जैसा कि आपको ज्ञात होगा, भारत ने इस तरह के सीमा पार हमलों का जवाब देने और उन्हें रोकने तथा उनका प्रतिरोध करने के अपने अधिकार का प्रयोग किया है। यह कार्यवाही नपीतुली, नॉन एस्केलेटरी, आनुपातिक और जिम्मेदारीपूर्ण है। यह आतंकवाद की इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को समाप्त करने और भारत में भेजे जाने वाले संभावित आतंकवादियों को अक्षम बनाने पर केंद्रित है। आपको यह भी स्मरण होगा कि 25 अप्रैल 2025 को संयुक्त राष्ट्र सुरक्षा परिषद ने पहलगाम आतंकवादी हमले पर एक प्रेस वक्तव्य जारी किया था, जिसमें आतंकवाद के इस निंदनीय कार्य के अपराधियों, आयोजकों, फाइनेंसरों और प्रायोजकों को जवाबदेह ठहराने और उन्हें न्याय के दायरे में लाने की आवश्यकता पर जोर दिया गया था। भारत की आज की इस कार्यवाही को इसी संदर्भ में देखा जाना चाहिए। Good morning. Thank you all for joining this briefing. As you are all aware, on April 22, 2025, Pakistani and Pakistan-trained terrorists belonging to the Lashkar-e-Taiba carried out a savage attack on Indian tourists at Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir in India. They murdered 26 people, including one national of Nepal, causing the largest number of civilian casualties in a terrorist attack in India since the 26 November 2008 attacks in Mumbai. The attack in Pahalgam was marked by extreme barbarity, with the victims mostly killed with headshots from close range and in front of their families. Family members were deliberately traumatized through the manner of the killing, accompanied by the exhortation that they should take back the message. The attack was clearly driven by the objective of undermining the normalcy returning to Jammu and Kashmir. In particular, it was designed to impact the mainstay of the economy, tourism, with a record 23 million tourists visiting the valley last year. The calculation, presumably, was that harming growth and development in the Union Territory would help keep it backward and create fertile ground for continued cross-border terrorism from Pakistan. The manner of the attack was also driven by an objective of provoking communal discord, both in Jammu and Kashmir and the rest of the nation. It is to the credit of the government and the people of India that these designs were foiled. A group calling itself the Resistance Front has claimed responsibility for the attack. This group is a front for the UN-proscribed Pakistani terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba. It is notable that India had given inputs about the TRF in the half-yearly report to the monitoring team of the UN's 1267 Sanctions Committee in May and November 2024, bringing out its role as a cover for Pakistan-based terrorist groups. Earlier too, in December 2023, India had informed the monitoring team about Lashkar and Jaish-e-Mohammed operating through small terror groups such as the TRF. Pakistan's pressure to remove references to TRF in the April 25 UN Security Council press statement is notable in this regard. Investigations into the Pahalgam terror attack have brought out the communication notes of terrorists in and to Pakistan. The claims made by the Resistance Front and their reposting by known social media handles of the Lashkar-e-Taiba speak for themselves. Identification of the attackers based on eyewitness accounts as well as other information available to law enforcement agencies has also progressed. Our intelligence has developed an accurate picture of the planners and backers of this team. The features of this attack also tie in with Pakistan's long track record of perpetrating cross-border terrorism in India, which is well documented and beyond question. Pakistan also has a well-deserved reputation as a haven for terrorists from around the world, with internationally proscribed terrorists enjoying impunity there. In addition, Pakistan has been known to willfully mislead the world and international forums, such as the Financial Action Task Force, on this issue. The Sajid Mir case, in which this terrorist was declared dead, and then, in response to international pressure, brought back to life, found alive and arrested, is the most glaring example. The latest attack in Pahalgam has understandably generated deep anger in Jammu and Kashmir and in other parts of India. Following the attacks, the government of India naturally responded with a set of initial measures relating to our engagement with Pakistan. You're all aware of the decisions that were announced on the 23rd of April. However, it was deemed essential that the perpetrators and planners of the 22nd April attack be brought to justice. Despite a fortnight having passed since the attacks, there has been no demonstrable step from Pakistan to take action against the terrorist infrastructure on its territory or on territory under its control. Instead, all it has indulged in are denials and allegations. Our intelligence monitoring of Pakistan-based terrorist modules indicated that further attacks against India were impending. There was thus a compulsion both to deter and to preempt. Earlier this morning, as you would be aware, India exercised its right to respond and preempt as well as deter more such cross-border attacks. These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible. They focused on dismantling the terrorist infrastructure and disabling terrorists likely to be sent across to India. You would also recall that the Security Council on 25th April 2025 had issued a press statement on the Pahalgam terror attack, underlining, and I quote, the need to hold perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of this reprehensible act of terrorism accountable and bring them to justice, unquote. India's latest actions should be seen in this context. Joining me for this briefing on our actions earlier this morning are Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh. I will request them to share some details regarding Operation Sindoor with all of you.
सुप्रभात देवियों और सज्जनों, मैं कर्नल सोफिया कुरैशी और मेरे साथ विंग कमांडर व्योमिका सिंह आज आपको 6 से 7 मई 2025 की रात 1:05 से 1:30 बजे के बीच भारतीय सशस्त्र बलों द्वारा अंजाम दिए गए ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बारे में जानकारी देंगे। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर 22 अप्रैल को पहलगाम में हुए विभत्स आतंकवादी हमले के शिकार मासूम नागरिकों व उनके परिवारों को न्याय देने के लिए लॉन्च किया गया था। इस कार्रवाई में 9 टेररिस्ट कैंप्स को टारगेट किया गया और पूरी तरह से इसे बर्बाद किया गया। पाकिस्तान में पिछले 3 दशकों से टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का निर्माण हो रहा है। इसमें रिक्रूटमेंट, इंडोक्ट्रिनेशन सेंटर्स, ट्रेनिंग एरियाज व लॉन्च पैड शामिल थे, जो पाकिस्तान और पाक अधिकृत जम्मू कश्मीर PoJK दोनों में फैले हैं।
Operation Sindoor was launched by Indian Armed Forces to deliver justice to the victims of Pahalgam terror attack and their families. 9 terrorist camps were targeted and successfully destroyed. Over the last 3 decades, Pakistan has systematically built terror infrastructure. It is a complex web of recruitment and indoctrination centers, training areas for initial and refresher courses, and launch pads for handlers. These camps are located both in Pakistan as well as Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir areas. Some of the well-known training camps are located, as you can see on the screen. They are distributed from Savai Nala in the north, counting to approximately 21, ending at Bhagalpur to the south.
इन लक्ष्यों का चयन विश्वसनीय इंटेलिजेंस सूचनाओं के आधार पर हुआ ताकि आतंक गतिविधियों की रीढ़ तोड़ी जा सके, और यह खास ध्यान दिया गया कि निर्दोष नागरिकों और सिविलियन इंस्टॉलेशन को नुकसान न पहुंचे।
The selection of these targets for Operation Sindoor was based on credible intelligence inputs and role of these facilities in perpetrating the terror activities. The locations were so selected to avoid damage to civilian infrastructures and loss of any civilian lives. This was done with due diligence, and the camps selected for targeting and their engagement will now be shown to you one by one.
PoJK के टारगेट्स मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगी। सबसे पहले सवाई नाला कैंप मुजफ्फराबाद, जो कि PoJK के लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल से 30 किलोमीटर दूर है। यह एक लश्कर तौयबा का ट्रेनिंग सेंटर था। 20 अक्टूबर 2024 सोनमर्ग, 24 अक्टूबर 24 गुलमर्ग, 22 अप्रैल 2025 पहलगाम, इन हमलों के आतंकियों ने यहीं से प्रशिक्षण लिया था। सैयदना बिलाल कैंप मुजफ्फराबाद, यह एक जैश ए मोहम्मद का स्टेजिंग एरिया है। यह हथियार, विस्फोटक और जंगल सर्वाइवल ट्रेनिंग का केंद्र भी था। गुलपुर कैंप कोटली, यह एलओसी से 30 किलोमीटर दूर था। लश्कर तोयबा का बेस था जो रजौरी पुंछ में सक्रिय था। 20 अप्रैल 2023 को पुंछ में और 9 जून 2024 को तीर्थ यात्रियों के बस हमले में यहीं से आतंकी को ट्रेन किया गया था। बरनाला कैंप भिंबर, ये एलओसी से 9 किलोमीटर दूर है। यहां पर हथियार हैंडलिंग, आईईडी व जंगल सर्वाइवल का प्रशिक्षण केंद्र था। अब्बास कैंप कोटली, यह एलओसी से 13 किलोमीटर दूर है। लश्कर तोयबा का फिदाइन यहां तैयार होता था। इसकी कैपेसिटी 15 टेररिस्ट को ट्रेन करने की थी। अब मैं पाकिस्तान के अंदर के टारगेट से अवगत कराना चाहूंगी। पहला, सर्जल कैंप सियालकोट, यह अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सीमा से 6 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर है, सांबा कठुआ के सामने। मार्च 2025 में जम्मू एंड कश्मीर पुलिस के 4 जवानों को की जो हत्या की गई थी, उन आतंकवादियों को इसी जगह पर ट्रेन किया गया था। दूसरा, महमूना जाया कैंप सियालकोट, यह 18 से 12 किलोमीटर आईबी से दूर था। हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन का बहुत बड़ा कैंप था। यह कठुआ जम्मू क्षेत्र में आतंक फैलाने का नियंत्रण केंद्र था। पठानकोट एयरफोर्स बेस पर किया गया हमला भी इसी कैंप से प्लान और डायरेक्ट किया गया था। मरकज ताइबा मुरीद के, यह आईबी से 18 से 25 किलोमीटर दूरी पर है। 2008 के मुंबई हमले के आतंकी भी यहीं से प्रशिक्षित हुए थे। अजमल कसब व डेविड हेडली भी यहां ट्रेन हुए थे।
आगे दूसरा आया। टारगेट 10 हुआ, एंक्लोजर सेम ही है। 7 इट इज हिट द टारगेट। हाँ हाँ। आ गया सर, इम्पैक्ट।
मरकज सुभान अल्लाह भावलपुर, यह इंटरनेशनल बाउंड्री से 100 किलोमीटर दूर है। जैश ए मोहम्मद का मुख्यालय था। यहां पर रिक्रूटमेंट, ट्रेनिंग व इंडॉक्ट्रिनेशन का केंद्र भी था। शीर्ष आतंकी अक्सर यहां आते थे। मैं आप सबको बताना चाहती हूं कि किसी भी सैन्य ठिकाने का निशाना नहीं बनाया गया और अभी तक किसी तरह की नागरिक क्षति की रिपोर्ट नहीं है। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
The strike on the terror camps were undertaken through precision capability, as shown to you. A niche technology weapons with careful selection of warheads was ensured so that there will be no collateral damage. The point of impact in each of the target was a specific building or a group of buildings. All the targets were neutralized with clinical efficiency, and the results reiterate the professionalism of the Indian Armed Forces in the planning and execution of their operations. No military establishments were targeted. India has demonstrated considerable restraint in its response. However, it must be said that the Indian Armed Forces are fully prepared to respond to Pakistani misadventures, if any, that will escalate the situation. Jai Hind, and thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends in the media, I ask your indulgence today in view of the fact that this is still an evolving situation. We will therefore not be able to take questions and answers today, but we will come back for more updates and more briefings shortly. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning. Thank you. Jai Hind.
There you saw in very clear terms the briefing that was conducted by the Foreign Secretary with the help of those two lady officers, Colonel Sophia Qureshi as well as Wing Commander Vyomika Singh. The message not lost there. It was Operation Sindoor indeed, and we had women officers briefing as well in terms of how the operation was planned and carried out and what kind of targets were chosen, with what level of precision, with the kind of munition that India has, with the kind of intelligence that India had gathered, and even results of that operation were shown, which clearly demonstrate that India had planned this to the T and India had calibrated its response. Initially, it was a non-military response to what happened in Pahalgam, and now non-state actors across the border that have been nurtured by Pakistan through the years, their involvement through decades of how they've targeted civilians as well as military resources of India have been established. People who have trained in these camps that have been targeted today have been involved in the most heinous terror attacks in India through the years as well, and these were the ones that were targeted. There were no civilian casualties according to Indian information that it has so far, because the munition used ensured that there was no collateral damage. Also, the kind of information that India had, the intel that India had, the attacks were very, very precise, and there were no military targets as well. So this is what India is putting across at the moment, and of course we will hear perhaps later on as well in terms of what has happened in terms of what Pakistan has been claiming as well in its response. So these are the details that have been shared so far. Each of the camps that were targeted, 9 of them have been named, and it has been elaborated on what was the reason behind choosing them as targets, including a camp that was in Muridke, 25 kilometers from the international border, where terrorists such as Ajmal Kasab and David Coleman Headley, involved in the 26/11 terror attacks in India in 2006, were also trained. Similarly, there were camps as far as 100 kilometers from the international border as well, where top terrorists are known to have visited. So those are the details so far as India is concerned, India's armed forces are concerned, India's foreign ministry is concerned, because those were the entities that were briefing the media at this moment. We await for more information to come out as we keep you updated on all the latest as far as Operation Sindoor and its fallout is concerned. Keep watching DD India for all the latest.